Arthur Chu, thank you so much for joining us today. It's so good to talk with you.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
You know, when we think of Jeopardy locally, we think of you and how successful you were on the show, and that you're one of our own here in Broadview Heights. Um, were you thinking when you heard the news about Alex Trebek this weekend?
I mean, there's been a lot going on, so it was one thing and a lot of big news items recently. But I guess all of us who've been following the story about his cancer diagnosis have been prepared for this for a while. It's a good thing that he was able to fight fight the cancer as long as he did, and it's a good thing that both his colleagues on the show and his friends and family were able to prepare for his passing. But you're never really worried. You're never really prepared for someone who's been around your whole life to be gone like that. Fortunately for me, none of my neither of my parents or any of my older relatives have passed away since I was a little kid when my grandfather died. So I don't, I have. It's one of the major things that makes you feel, the passage of time, right? He's literally been the host of Jeopardy as long as I've been alive. I was born in 1984. So 36 years is a long time for a TV show. And, it's the end of an era.
Absolutely. An incredible legacy on that show. And, to most of us, he's just a guy that we knew through TV. But you actually got to work with him. You were on the show. You got to know him a little bit. What was he like?
Well, I mean, he was a very private person when it came to his personal life. It was actually a surprise when he published a memoir recently. It was the kind of thing that no one, I think, really expected. But I think the interesting thing about him was that for so long he was playing a role, and in some ways the role reflected who he was, obviously. But as with any actor, he was a lot of himself that he kept private. I think the most, and we were just contestants on the show, so it's not like I knew him on an intimate level or anything. But I will say that it was interesting how much he was able to turn certain things on or off. That when the cameras were off, and there was no question of breaching professionalism, he was a completely different person when he could just kind of relax and talk to the audience. He was a really funny guy. I even said that he could have been a stand-up comedian in another life, or if his media career had gone in a different direction, he could have been an actor in sitcoms or dramas or whatever. This was the direction he took, and it's an unusual direction, one I don't think many people could do as well as he did. But it's kind of weird. It's like seeing your teacher at the grocery store or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's weird to realize that this persona you're so familiar with is him doing his job, and that there's a whole other human being. As a performer, he could pull out many different styles, many different ways to interact with people, but that was the one that he cultivated because that was the right one for the show. And he was very disciplined with that, unlike some other game show hosts or celebrities I can name, that he never let it slip or let it blur, right? He never took advantage. I think it's a rare thing. He never took advantage of his position to try to push something else, to try to push his political beliefs, to try to, promote his brand in some other area. He was very, very loyal to the show, and he had this very old-fashioned idea that he had a job to do and that he shouldn't compromise it. He did say in an interview, while I was having my 15 minutes of fame or whatever, that he felt his job was to enable the contestants who came through to have their moment in the spotlight, however they chose to, use that, or maybe in some cases abuse that, right? But that it wasn't his job to judge, and it wasn't his job to take control of it. His job was just to enable it. And he did a very good job for someone who was in the spotlight of letting other people take center stage, you know.
Did he do that for you? Do you feel like he enabled you to sort of have your moment?
Yeah, I think he did. I think that, well, you know, for me, I think for most people in the era we live in now, a lot of going viral happens off the cameras, right? And social media on the internet. And, you know, I respect a lot that Alex Trebek never made a Twitter account. He never, you know, felt the need to keep everyone updated on his off-camera life that way. And I think it would be very different if he had. And I always appreciate that for the people who come on the show, there's never this sense that you're having to navigate personalities or deal with people trying to push something on you. You know, like I've known people who've been on reality TV and just this like the relentless thing when you're on a reality show of the host and the producers trying to like play games with you and mess with your head. And Jeopardy was always played very straight, right? You come in, you answer trivia questions, you tell your little anecdote, and Alex reacts to that, and he congratulates you if you win and shakes your hand if you lose, and that's it, you know. And whatever else you make out of that is up to you, and happens, you know, off stage. And I always appreciated that. If, you know, in some other life, I auditioned for this show called King of the Nerds before I was on Jeopardy. It's a reality show. I'm not saying it was a bad show, but I knew I've talked to Colby Burnett, who was on both Jeopardy on the Teachers Tournament and on King of the Nerds, and it's just a different environment, and it really messes with your head, you know, to be pushed to play a character, and to have your like the persona that people see you as be managed by somebody else.
Yeah.
I've had things happen like that to me.
Doesn't feel as authentic as it did on Jeopardy.
But the weird way that Jeopardy lets people be unfiltered, even people who, you know, lose on the show and are only there for those 22 minutes. And those 22 minutes, they're themselves. They're wearing their own clothes. They're telling their own story. They're, you know, real. It's one of the few chances you get to see like a snapshot of real people from random places in Middle America on national TV. You know,
I like that. That's well said. What will Alex's impact on you be?
You know, I would say that I never got to know him, obviously. Even being on the show as long as I did, I was interacting with him when the cameras were on, you know, but I would say that he always, not just for me, but for everyone who was on the show, he always did a good job of standing up for people and saying that, you know what, a lot of people find guilty pleasure in watching Jeopardy to see like how the unwashed masses look when you put them on TV, right? The people who are not set up for the Hollywood casting agency, right? But he was always very, very firm in his belief that the show should be in its own way a meritocracy, right? That it doesn't matter if you're awkward. It doesn't matter if you're not as good looking as people wish you were. It doesn't matter if you don't fit what people's idea of a Jeopardy champion should be. Here's a place where we just have this game. We see who does the best at it. And if you're good enough at it, you get a lot of money. And I think in a world where, like, especially now looking at people younger than me on social media, where everyone is kind of like their own brand manager. Everyone is like more and more aware of presenting themselves a certain way and hoping to get rich and famous by becoming an influencer, right? By developing these like fake friendships with people online. There's something really refreshing about how on the show itself, the goal is just to be good at this one thing. And if you're good enough at that one thing, it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, or, you know, the character people project on you in their head, you know. on the show itself, no one ever said anything to me except that, hey, you won that game fair and square. You deserve to take home this big check. And I think knowing that was the show's ethos, and that you can't do anything about people who decide to make you the target of their 2 minutes hate on Twitter for the day or whatever, but that they brought you on there because they thought you were smart and that you were good at answering questions, and that's impressive, and that people want to see that. That's a big deal for them to do.
Well, it is certainly impressive. We're still impressed by you. What have you been up to since we last talked?
Since the show, I had my 15 minutes of fame for a while. Decided to take a step back from that for a lot of reasons. But the show did change the path of my life, made it easier for me to do things that I want to do. I'll always be grateful that I had that opportunity.
I know that they have said that Alex kept working, that he was recording new shows, up until about 10 days ago or so. And those are going to continue to air through Christmas time. As you watch those, what will you be thinking?
Gosh, it's kind of funny. They always say you don't want to see how the sausage is made, right? A lot of time people are surprised when I just tell them basic things. I tell them the shows are filmed all in a row. So 1 week's worth of shows was one day. He's not literally going home and coming back every weeknight to film a half-hour show. That wouldn't make sense. And for some people that ruins the magic, right? But I think having actually lived through it, just knowing that what it was like backstage, remembering what it was like in the green room, hanging out with the other contestants, and just knowing that it's kind of this grueling pace, right? That it's not a huge amount of content if you put it all back to back, but you're having to play this pretty intense game that's not just a recall and trivia, but of reflexes, right? Buzzing in and making Alex is having to make judgment calls and try to be a referee at the same time he's trying to be an engaging host. And it's a draining job. It was one of the most tiring things I had to do. In real life, I was on the show for 3 days, which was stretched out into an 11 episode run. But those were some of the most tiring 3 days of my life. And Alex did that, again and again for 36 years. And he kept on doing it, after cancer. And that's impressive. I think it's the whole thing that he found a job that he was really good at, that he really believed that he was the best person to do that job. And he showed up every day and did it consistently. When no one would have begrudged him retiring 10, 15 years earlier, but he stayed. And it's hard to imagine someone else fitting into that role so well. So it is, I heard that they timed the ending of it for Christmas. That's really poignant. And, I'm glad that he was able to sort of go out on his own terms like that.